Listen.
Stick around.
So Prey has become the most viewed thing on Hulu since whatever the last big thing on Hulu was, and sadly for a movie that's worth the combo price, it didn't even get released in theaters, even though everyone was talking about it.
Did you not see the new Predator?
So to give it its praises, I want to give a quick look back at the Predator franchise leading up to Prey to give you the previously on before the movie that is all previously on. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go catch the first Predator, then go catch Prey, because we're about to get into full spoilers. Let me explain. So the first movie takes place in the 80s when a ship passes by Earth in order to drop off a little predator, kind of like a stork, as a part of their big ritual.
They're called the Yautja, and to become an elder clan member of the Yautja, you have to start unblooded as a youth. As a youth, you have to go with 2 other young Yautja. You have to kill xenomorphs, and then you get to be blooded. And then the way to get to the top echelon is if you kill 3 xenomorph queens.
Yeah, it gets pretty extensive. The first one keeps it simple by just giving you guns, guts, and grunts, as Arnold's Dutch gets deployed into Central America for a mission with a lot of cigars. I mean, like, this man was just smoking so many cigars on set that they had to add it to the script.
I, being the athlete that I am and the clean living person that I am, never in a million years would let tobacco touch my lips. Arnold eventually, golly, you want one? Sure, why not? I was hooked. It was all over.
He's joined by Billy, who I'll re-mention during Prey, Pancho, who won't be re-mentioned again, Shane Black's Hawkins, who spends the whole movie making jokes that he won't cut out, Mac, who spends the whole movie shaving only to get cut out, and Jesse Ventura's Blaine, who was actually spitting out his own tobacco on set.
Which was in the script. They asked me, can you chew tobacco? And I pulled out my Copenhagen and Red Man. I said I've been chewing for 20 years.
They all land to find a bunch of skinned bodies hanging from the trees, which I think to this day earned the Oscar nomination for effects, because you know we don't have the guts to show practicals like this now, much less fire all the rounds they did in this movie. But even after the team completes their mercenary mission, they come to find that it turns out that they were tricked into going in there for political reasons in order to stop an insurgency, and since the previous team couldn't hang, Carl Weathers Dillon lied in order to get them there.
My men are not expendable.
So before they even face a predator, they come to realize they're ones too.
You're bleeding, man.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Somehow they fire even more bullets into the forest just to get a little Gatorade commercial puddle out of the predator as he preys on them one by one single-handedly. Anna, the freed captive who they had earlier, is one of the remaining ones who's there to kind of show that the predator doesn't attack the defenseless before she's told to
Get to the chopper!
Leaving Dutch to be the last action hero. The predator has a whole ritual that he does, just like Arnold, but Arnie calls his a training montage, and then they go full out on their brawl as the predator goes full commando on him, blowing him up so badly that Dutch realizes he can't take him hand to hand, but needs to set up a double trap in order to dupe him, and once he does, Arnold goes Dutch and splits, killing the classic movie alien that's born right in front of us. Which is kind of crazy to think that the predator really does die in every single one of his movies. Now, in order to count all of the kills, thrills, and chills that we do on LME, we want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsor, Factor. I'm pretty sure a lot of people aren't training to face up against the Predator, but nonetheless, I think we're all still trying to eat clean. So with all of the delivery options you have out there for food, I think that Factor is one of the best because you're not just getting ready-to-go meals that are prepped by a chef, but it's quality ingredients meant to make you feel better. So be it breakfast, lunch, dinner, even their smoothies, all of it is made to give you the nutrients you need while getting rid of all of that junk. If you're looking to get those Apollo Creed gains, then you want to make sure you're stacked up on that protein. You get to schedule your plan at your own pace, select your own preferences, and have food that's ready to eat in minutes, all while not having to make the trip to the grocery store where you're worrying about what ingredients to get, will they even have it, did I even pump gas? So if you're interested, head over to go.factor75.com/letmeexplain130 and use the promo code letmeexplain130 to get $130 off across 6 boxes. Again, I know some of y'all aren't looking to become the next Schwarzenegger, you just want enough energy to binge your shows, so what better way than with fresh, never frozen food that's faster than a drive-thru. Again, that's go.factor75.com/letmeexplain130. Use the code letmeexplain130 and get $130 off across 6 boxes. The second one takes place in 1997 LA, where it's become a war zone while the mayor is out on vacation.
It has not been a nice day!
They have the goofiest versions of a Colombian cartel, referred to here as the Scorpions, who trade in high fives for crack smacks.
You fucking pendejo!
And then the Jamaican voodoo posse, who roll up as they roll in.
This is not about money. This is about power.
It's kind of like if Dare got the rights to Predator.
Come and get it! The Scorpio is ready!
Danny Glover plays Mike Harrigan, who's trying to take down these gangs, not realizing that another species is going to be in the mix. And I'm talking about Gary Busey.
All units responding, San Pedro and 5th Avenue, be advised. Federal officers will handle investigation.
We didn't hear that.
Busey plays Keys, who's a higher up, coming in with his undercover cops, pretending that they want to stop these crime rings, when in reality, he saw Predator 1 on cam and wants to get his hands on that alien technology.
A fucking alien.
On Mike's team, there's Bill Paxton, who has zero game, but is good at surveillance until he gets terminated yet again by another alien.
We don't need any rush hour Rambos there.
Leona is there to bust balls and translate.
Let's go.
There's even a Nightcrawler going around who, no lie, is keeping his own live kill counts on what's going on the streets.
More mutilation! Fuck you!
The Predator isn't as cool as the first movie, but it is dope to see him hunt in the city and how it's keeping its MP3 files of people's voices just to use it back on them.
Shit happens. Shit happens.
Creepiest one, though, has to be the kid with the candy. Like, that's a Predator.
Want some candy? Want some candy?
Fucker!
Want some candy?
The movie has a lot of interesting set pieces, like the train scene where all of the civilians are packing. It was also cool to get a good look at the Predator's collection of trophies that's in his ship, but I really love that screaming head transition. In the end, Mike's the last one standing to take out the Predator, obviously, and he somehow finds its ship buried under housing where he pulls a B&E and kills it, and that's where another group of Predators come in to retrieve the body, as is their custom, and they even chuck a pistol at Mike as a sort of like trophy for acknowledging his win, and something that the studio could then make a prequel for 30 years later. Now, after the release of 2, a bunch of comics came out for the Predator that expanded on the lore and even had them fighting the xenomorphs from Alien. Hell, even went up against Batman. So over a decade later, they decided to make Alien vs. Predator, a movie that's in the same vein as Godzilla vs. Kong. Once the studio realized that they kind of owned the rights to both properties, it's already written. And they already had an Easter egg in the second, so they got the Anderson who directed the Resident Evils to come in and followed in the steps of Freddy vs. Jason.
You are one ugly mother.
It is interesting to see how they combine the lore of both Predator and Alien with having the Alien CEO of Whaling Corporation come in, excavating a pyramid in Antarctica because he thinks it's something else, when in reality it's a sacrificial chamber. So now there's an alien war going on, and all of these characters whose names you won't remember are trapped in the middle of it. Pretty much, they give you an LME on the history of predators who've been coming to Earth for thousands of years, teaching humans how to be civilized, until, they need to sacrifice them to the xenomorphs because they want to combine them together so that the predators have an ultimate prey to hunt. And since it's for the lulz, sometimes it gets a little too out of hand and they have a self-destruct switch just in case. The main predator we follow is named Scar, who has his own siblings, Celtic and Chopper, and of course the xenomorphs get to the Chopper first, but he also becomes best friends with the main character Lex when his brothers die in front of him and her team dies in front of her, and they bond in order to take out the queen. The movie then goes full WWE with its fight. It's like prime slime time with all the neon guts. There's xenomorphs doing headbutts. Like, they went all out on the designs of these face hussies. But in the end, these two are able to take down the queen, run away together, explosion and all, as Lex gets mask fished. Like I said, even with the win, Scar still dies, but not before leaving a mark in Lex's heart and a scar on her face as she's left stranded in Antarctica, reminding you to just go watch the thing. Round 2 is really dark. Like, it takes place in Colorado, but the only strain was on my eyes because you can't see a thing. It has a lot more gruesome fights. Predator introduces like a tie-to-go thing he has on him to clean up crime scenes. And while you never care for the people, at least I like the practical puppets. After all the destruction, though, the movie just ends with a massive nuke and they call it a day. Up next is Predators, which is considered to be a reboot that came out in 2010 and was produced by Robert Rodriguez, who was really inspired by Alien and Aliens, and he wanted a sequel where it ended with an S. Here we follow a mercenary who falls into a jungle with a whole group, not realizing why or how they got there, as they struggle to survive while they're being hunted. They later find out that they're in a different planet as they meet up with Lawrence Fishburne's Nolan, who survived there for 10 seasons as he's hatched up and hiding in the jungle like Desmond. They have a classic predator in here who's hunting them. They've got some predator hounds. They introduce a berserker and a falconer predator. Again, they all lose.
I know because I have done this.
Eventually, the group realizes that they've all been shipped there to be hunted due to their past actions, and they get taunted the same way they were taunting others.
In case you didn't notice, we just got flushed out.
How do you know this?
Because that's what I would do.
It makes for some good action pieces, but thematically, it's like someone rewatched the original and had an epiphany on what the Predator title meant and how it's meant for not just the alien Predator, but the humans, and decided, yeah, forget the subtext, let's make it a monologue.
It's because we are predators, just like them. We're the monsters of our own world.
These two end up surviving long enough for the sequel that never came as they respawn for the next wave.
First of all, I want to start by saying good for you, because I'm on your side, and I think people should always speak up when they see something happening. I think being quiet when there's something that needs to be addressed is the wrong move. So,
in 2018, The Predator came out, which had people very curious, since director Shane Black, who was a character in the first one and was coming off some really good directorial hits, was retackling the franchise that started it all, only to almost end it. It's like his character from the original wrote this, because it's all a bad joke.
I said to her, Jace, you got a big pussy. Jace, you got a big pussy. She said, why did you say that twice? I said I didn't.
Eat your pussy.
Wait.
Hey,
No, you said eat my pussy. What the fuck is wrong with him?
I said you're pushing.
He has a
You said
neurological
you're pushing.
disorder.
I think the reason this is the one most people have missed is because it had one of the worst rollouts due to all of the controversies, because it turned out that they were making like another type of Predator film.
You know about this with regard to Olivia Munn and a cast member who I guess had been convicted of a sex crime, was in the movie. Blah, 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 blah.
I'll let you look up what Shane's buddy did, but even after cutting out his scenes, they forgot to cut out the rest of the movie.
I get it. You want to know if someone fucked an alien.
We follow Army Ranger Quinn, who encounters a predator at the beginning, who they're able to pin down in order to examine, but then he also steals some of his equipment and UPS's the alien gear to his house. That's where his son, who they really want to let you know is on the spectrum,
I'm hungry for an ass burger.
comes in and wears the helmet as a Halloween costume, which goes perfectly with the themes of this movie feeling like a Predator cosplay. They then bring in Gary Busey's kid to play Gary Busey's kid, who then brings in Olivia Munn to play a scientist who claims that predators are updating themselves and creating hybrids with humans. And while this is the next step in their evolution, they're also kind of on the clock because they think climate change is going to kill us. And I guess they're doing nothing to stop that. They then team up with a group of soldiers who haven't been treated for their PTSD. As for everything just turns into a bit. There are so many jokes in the middle of serious scenes that it made me want to apologize to Kevin Feige. They even got the Predator doing a bit.
What, are they hunting each other now?
Everything in the new one is also just pretty goofy. They add another Predator, but make him a little bit bigger. They showcase how the helmet got an iOS update, but it's all the callbacks that I thought were horrendous.
What are you? Shut the fuck up.
Nah, in the first it's clever because it's not just Arnold saying it to the Predator, but it's the Predator using that recording of it to question Arnold back because he's so impressed by him.
What the hell are you?
How'd you miss the inflection switch when you had a copy of the original script?
You know, a lot of experts say that being on the spectrum isn't really a disorder. It's actually the next step in the evolutionary chain.
I am so glad she did the John Mulaney thing, so this can be the second dumbest thing she's done. In the end, they decided to keep the alien technology in order to take out more predators.
Oh shit! It's got a name!
Name? What name?
I guess you'd call it the Predator Killer.
So y'all went from super predators to PKs and AKs? Shane snatches a nanotech VFX pack that he had over at Marvel to showcase this new suit, as he ends it with Quinn claiming it as his new superhero outfit for the sequel that we hopefully never get. So now we're going from The Predator to Prey. Since the last one was so bad, they had to change the title. Just kidding. It's actually interesting to find out that the director had this idea since before the 2018 movie came out, with him wanting to release a teaser with Naru just saying coming soon, and then actually having the big reveal of a prequel to be a surprise for when people were watching The Predator. It comes from director Dan Trachtenberg, who made 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is one of my favorites, and he also did the pilot for The Boys, which is a totally rad show, and I just wish he got his original wish of pitching the entire movie to be in Comanche.
You know, that's the way that Dan originally pitched it. You know, the script was written and it said, what did it say, Dan? To be
yeah, when you see everything from here on out is spoken in Comanche, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I think having a full dub is cool. Yeah, it's not the same, especially when the intro leaves a black video for when it switches to English. But either way, it's still a great movie. I highly recommend it. Go watch it, because this is the final spoiler warning. So the movie takes place in 1719, 300 years ago in the Great Northern Plains, and it originally was going to begin with that predator v prey cycle that we see later on in the movie in order to set the tone. That's when we get introduced to Naru, who everyone respects as a healer, but make fun of her when she tries to be a hunter, and the movie plays it off like a sports film where she's the underdog looking to prove to others who she already knows herself to be, and so she sets out on her rite of passage to take down the creature she's been noticing in the woods, who also just so happens to be on Earth for the first time, so technically they're both going through initiation.
You want to hunt something that's hunting you.
Since this is a pre-predator, we see it decked out with a skull mask as it's ripping the skeletons out of snakes, which kind of adds to the collection of previous shots that we've seen, with honestly this new one being way up there. We see it go at animals, we see it go at humans, pretty much anything it deems as a threat.
And I'm not a threat. That is what makes me dangerous.
We then see that paralleled with Naru, who's walking against her predisposed path in order to be a warrior, even though early on, she'll take out an animal and then take herself out too. But I love the edits where you see them both tending to their wounds, how similar they are. It'll collect skulls while she's collecting rabbits like Costco chickens. There's a big emphasis on her eyes and how observant she is. She notices that it's only hunting for sport, how its gun works, its helmet, and I just wish we had more background on the father who they bring up for very little, especially considering the tools that he leaves behind in her crafting talents. But while we don't know much about her forefathers, she may end up being an ancestor to someone we've already seen.
I was not allowed to see any R-rated movies. And I remember they said there's one awesome scene where Billy, the Native American tracker, fights the predator on a bridge over a waterfall. And I later was old enough to see the movie, and that was not in it. So this is very much like the flower that blossomed from that very early idea.
Talking about the filmmaking for a little bit, I thought the surround sound in this was absolutely fantastic. I loved the great night shoots that they had and how they took advantage of the magic hour, which is just going to stand the test of time. But man, those CG animals. I know that the first kind of, it seems way too real, that's why it holds. But here it's a little funky with the CG. It didn't take me out, but I am praying for a patch, because when it comes to the practicals on the Predator, it was awesome. They've come a long way from the red suit, but we're still able to respect the past, kind of like Rogue One did, especially with that viewfinder. I love the fact that the Predator's theme even feels like a prequel, because it just hints at the score to come.
There's a bit with the axe and the returns, and I was like, that's God of War. That's the returning God of War. So
So is his shield.
Naru's group eventually crosses paths with the Predator, and they just get absolutely demolished. One of them tries to lend a hand and ends up giving his head instead. Another one just couldn't cut it. But Naru is able to run away, only to get trapped and snatched by the Frenchmen, who use her and her brother as bait. And they actually did a good job at hinting at this third party by seeing the skinned buffalo that would only come from them, their traps, and of course, the cigars.
Shame on you, Arnold.
It's also a really interesting flip on the stories of old by taking iconic shots like that of the Searchers and then recontextualizing them. Because I heard a lot of people be mad that the Frenchmen looked disgusting, as if they weren't the ones living in the wild. It's the Comanche who live in the plains. These would be their original predators. That then leads to the fog scene, which was inspired by the 2015 Macbeth movie, which is absolutely stunning. And here it just looks incredible. This is easily one of the most brutal scenes of the year, as the Predator is axing, slashing, and bashing. They show you how humor can work in a tense scene, that even predators have snap bracelets, and there's a nasty neck kill in this movie that I'm logging as one of my favorites of the year. On top of it being an underdog story, it's also a beautiful sibling story, and I love how the brother was tough but kind. He sees how well they can work together.
You can see what I miss. You always have.
And I think that's what ends up making his sacrifice really dope, and he earns that callback.
If it bleeds,
we can kill it.
Thank God they didn't force the other ones.
There were lots of jokes on set about maybe we call a horse named Chopper. Or the fur trappers say, let's go Chopper, whatever, but I think that would have been a little too far.
Naru then has a fight with the Frenchman that I think is pretty solid, except for this one Mighty Morphin Strangler who was in the back, but then gets a pistol from the translator in exchange for help, making this guy the original Raphael, whose name is inscribed on the handle. So look forward to that Hulu miniseries on this dude. Or the gun and how it gets to Glover.
So much could kill him.
It won't kill him. Just cool his blood.
Naru then uses her herbs to trick the predator as they homage that mud pit scene from the first. She ends up getting an assist from her doggo as she bops him on the head and then goes full David and Goliath on the predator, killing him with his own helmet because he forgot to put it on airplane mode.
It's like glow stick. I mean, I'm sure there's other stuff happening, but it's like glow stick juice and they like paint it on and it fades.
In the end, she brings home the victory to her tribe, wearing its blood as war paint, as the credits showcase more ships arriving to either pick up the body or for Hulu to greenlight a sequel. Thank you all for checking out this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Overall, I love this idea of taking the Predator to different time periods. Predator versus samurais would be cool. Predators versus Vikings. Hell, maybe one day Predator versus the box office at the movies again. It should be pretty cool. But it's been really interesting to see a lot of sequels to the 70s just like blow up, from Top Gun Maverick and everything else. And I just like when you're able to bring somebody who can make the movie its own. Like, I feel a lot of Dan Trachtenberg scripts are like original scripts that then get IP'd later, but he knows how to integrate them so well with little nuances and nods that it feels like it was there from the start. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic movie. It was really interesting to go back on all the Predator movies. Hopefully, I was able to add some context to some things, but I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think of these movies, which is your favorite. I would suggest, if you want to watch a good alien movie, may I say,
nope.
Other than that, I'm curious to know any things that I might have missed down below in the comment section. And until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll send you some
candy.